Hey everyone, Unishek here, and welcome to another Ask 343 episode. Today, we're joined by the audio team, and they're answering your community questions that you asked on Twitter using hashtag Ask343. Before we dive into the questions, I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you about what they do here at the studio.
Hey, John. Yeah, thanks. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited to answer some questions from the community. I'm Chase Thompson. I'm the lead audio technical designer on the team here. And what that means is that I do a lot of our audio systems design and tools design. And so, similar to the sound designers where they're responsible for making things sound cool, I'm responsible for making everything work in the game and play back the way that it should.
Hey, I'm Joel Yarger. I'm music supervisor for Halo Infinite. Been with the team a little over 2 years. And previously, I worked at PlayStation on the God of War franchise, Uncharted franchise, Last of Us, that type of first party work.
My name's Kyle Frazier. I'm the lead sound designer here at 343 Industries. My day-to-day responsibilities are kind of just overseeing the overall sound design for the game. Also just kind of involves just a lot of content creation for many different areas, and doing my best to try to make the game sound as best as possible for you guys.
Great to have you here today. Excited to dive into some community questions. This question from the community is, with the new acoustic system, does it allow players immediately on either side of the same wall with no portals to hear each other's location similar to other games? Or does the room and portal pathfinding completely take precedent?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sounds on either side of a wall are never going to be completely muted because of the acoustic system. It should sound natural. So that's the whole goal of this system, is to make the audio feel as natural as possible. So, if a gunshot was on the other side of a wall, even if that wall was completely closed off from you, you would still hear it. And so that's the goal of this system, is to make sure that that it feels natural. And when those sounds are in other rooms, they'll be appropriately muffled or turned down based on how occluded or obstructed the sound is. So if there is a portal there, it'll be clearer, and if there's not, it'll be muffled, but you'll still be able to hear it.
Awesome. That's super cool to hear, and I'm glad we're taking that more realistic approach with that audio design. This question from Twitter is, I'm all for the direction of the soundtrack in Infinite, but my question is, will there be some somber emotional tracks? Example, Heavy Price Paid made me feel the emotions of betrayal for Arbiter.
Thanks for that question. The short answer is yes. We have a lot that we haven't been able to share yet, but we have emotional and character arcs that involve spoilers that I can't wait for you to play the game and hear the highs and lows of the entire score, not just what we've shared so far. I think two characters that we do know about, Islet and Escharum, are part of that, so you can hear hints of where those characters will be going on their journey, and musically, it's pretty wide.
And when you say highs and lows, you mean emotional highs and emotional lows.
Emotional highs, emotional lows, dynamics of that. It's not all bright. It's just we wanted to recapture what made early Halos feel special in that regard.
Gotcha. Thank you for diving into that one. I love the music, so very excited to let fans hear more as they play the game. This question is about some weapon sounds. Will we see the classic overcharge hum for the plasma pistol back for Halo Infinite? It's really cool seeing the studio embracing the 2 decades of Halo audio and trying to weave legacy into the soundscape of the game.
Yeah, when we kind of initially sat down, we were trying to kind of brainstorm different sounds that we could bring back from the kind of original trilogy. This was definitely kind of high on the list. But the sound is just, it has a lot of character, it has a really strong sense of nostalgia. And so, yeah, we definitely decided to kind of weave it into our aesthetic, into our designs. And it worked out really well. It didn't feel kind of jarring, it didn't feel forced in any manner. And so what you kind of have is when you charge up the plasma pistol, you'll get kind of a nice, satisfying, high-tech wind-up. And then before it's fully charged, you'll get the kind of swell of the hum that goes into this hum loop. And you kind of get some nice, crackling plasma and whatnot. But yeah, I think you guys will dig it. It's a nice iteration on the plasma pistol.
That is awesome to hear. And I love how you were able to describe it in such depth, right? The different phases of charging up that plasma pistol.
Nice. Yeah.
This next question from Twitter is, will enemies shooting at your friendlies still be loud for you? Or is it just a thing when you are personally targeted? I worry for the situational awareness up close. How quiet are we talking here?
That's a great question. So the threat priority system uses a bucketing system where the highest threat to the player is going to be turned up, and the next level of enemies is going to be turned down just a little bit, and then any friendly characters and weapons in the game are going to be turned down the most. And the great thing about that is that a lot of the time, especially in multiplayer, you're going to be playing really close with your teammates. You're going to be running around the map together and trying to stay close. So in past games, your teammates' weapon fire would be the loudest thing in the mix. And what this system does is it brings those down so that you can really hear the most threatening enemy, and then right under that will be the other enemies that are nearby. So it's not going to make those completely inaudible. In fact, it'll help bring those up in the mix because your teammates won't be quite so loud anymore.
Gotcha, dude. That's super cool. I actually didn't know that we had such like an incredibly detailed stack ranked list of threat prioritization there. That's super cool. This next question is, will the music be adaptive like it was in earlier Halo titles? Will the tracks play out differently depending on the gameplay state?
Absolutely, yes. You know, it's hard to even put music in a game nowadays that isn't adaptive in some ways. We're utilizing some technology like WYs for our engine, along with some custom developed tools and music systems to help track what the player is doing, what the enemy AI is doing at any one given time. And also, we take into account a lot of what we consider to be a player intention, what a player might be doing next, or how we could react to what a player might be doing next. Whereas, you know, are they going full on into battle? Are they keeping back and sniping? Or are they just passing through and walking to the next experience while sort of just, you know, not really even fully engaging in the experience that they're, you know, is unfolding in front of them. So all of that is taken into account, and it's we're constantly improving that too. You might be walking through the world and get a piece of music while you're just exploring that then carries over into combat engagement. Whereas if you just walked into the combat engagement without that piece of music playing, you'd get something else.
So it is very adaptive based on what you're
It's
doing,
very,
where you're at.
yes, very adaptive based on where you're at, what you're doing, where you're at in the story, even. What music is chosen is kind of indicative of what you've already accomplished in the story, so we can kind of keep things fresh and keep things moving. So what I really look forward to is we have a pretty techie music team here on site that we've put a lot of thought and care into how the music plays out, and I think once the game comes out and you can experience it, we'll be able to start talking and releasing more details about the underlying technical stuff, you know, again, without giving away spoilers now.
So not just a yes, but a strong, emphatic yes, we will have this adaptive
Yes.
stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for diving into that one.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so our next question from the community is, what's the toughest sound effect to design or implement that you're allowed to talk about, and why?
Yeah, I think kind of every area of sound design kind of has its own unique set of challenges. It's definitely from a content perspective, you know, it could be kind of difficult to conceptualize something that doesn't exist in the real world. But I'd probably have to say that creating vocalizations for creatures and characters that don't have any like actual verbal language is always really extensive. And that's mostly just because you have to create a huge amount of content. You usually have to cover anywhere from like 15 to 30 behavioral sets. And you have to have, you know, a good set of variations for all of those. And then you have to kind of make sure that it all sounds coherent and it sounds like one character across all those behaviors. And so you end up having to bring in like tons of content from lots of different like animal recordings. You end up recording yourself. You find yourself recording like your household pets and stuff like that. Finding various objects that you could kind of get just interesting textures that you could like meld in there. But it gets really complicated because since you're taking all these different sources from all these different things that have been recorded at different times and different places, it can be really challenging to kind of get it to be like one coherent single source and not sound like it's multiple things playing at the same time. So it just takes a lot of finesse and just a lot of time and patience. And yeah, it's definitely, I call it kind of like the gauntlet of sound design overall. And probably from like an implementation standpoint, I probably have to say vehicles are probably the most challenging, especially like in the realm of Halo, because we don't have like a combustion engine simulator. This isn't like Forza, so everything has to be faked. And so what we have to do is we have to take in all this like raw data and then basically interpolate it into something meaningful and something useful. It was definitely challenging in previous games, but now with like the improvements of our tools and the slip space engine, we're able to have basically object-oriented programming, and we can like feed any parameters that we need, and we can be able to control that, and we can control the speed or control the limit of those parameters and feed that into our game, our like middleware, and that controls like how the audio behaves. And so it's definitely kind of come a long way, and I think you guys will see like a really nice improvement in the vehicles and how they behave, and just kind of gives a more dynamic, realistic experience.
So wildlife and vehicles.
Yeah,
Those
essentially.
two very unique challenges. That's very cool. Thank you for diving into that one.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Our next question from the community is, differences in teammates' audio when shooting compared to enemies is awesome. Can we expect the same for footsteps? And does this apply to yourself as well?
Yeah, actually, in Halo Infinite, we'll have 3 different types of footsteps in multiplayer, where you'll have your own personal player footsteps, as well as footsteps for your enemies and for your teammates. And so with this game, we're super excited to really enhance the situational awareness in the multiplayer. So alongside of those footsteps, we've also got 3D mode audio that we've added to the multiplayer modes for things like capture the flag, where the sounds of returning the flag are actually going to come in 3D from the position of the flag object. So you'll have a lot more situational awareness of where your enemies, where are the mode objects and the objectives in that mode. So we're super excited to see how people react to that and how the fans like it.
Yeah, and I know from my own personal experience in gameplay, having the different enemy audio is always extremely helpful. Our next question from the community is, are the tracks from the E3 2018 announcement trailer and the Discover Hope trailer from the following year going to be part of the 3 to 4 hours of Infinite soundtrack? Love those tracks.
Yeah, when we set out on both of those trailers, they had a specific goal in mind. So for 2018, the music, a lot of what you saw and heard was part of more of a tech demo for the new engine, and sort of also embracing, our initial toe in the water of music direction. So the 2018 assets are not necessarily part of Infinite. However, our E3 2019 Discover Hope trailer is literally the cinematic opening to the game. Like, you will experience that in real time, and even be able to, play portions of it.
Nice. So 2019, yes. 2018, probably not.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. Thank you. Our next question from Twitter is, what's the weirdest sound you've recorded for Halo that transformed itself into something completely different?
That's a good question. It's kind of really hard to pinpoint one particular thing, because I feel like that's kind of what we do day in and day out. Is we're always just taking maybe the mundane and kind of transforming it into something completely different. It's also kind of a challenging question, because I feel like a lot of times we go into recording with a very particular thing in mind. But of course, while we're doing that, we'll hear something and be like, oh snap, that would be like really perfect for this thing or for X, Y, or Z. But yeah, it is always fun, and it's always interesting to find and record sounds that you would probably not typically be drawn to. Like, one of my favorite things is moving, essentially. I love moving in new places. Like, I don't buy essentially for that reason, because every place I end up renting, there's always these like unique quirks or different sounds that I can find and record. I'm always able to like incorporate those in interesting ways into my sound design. So And then that's why I've kind of like always keep a recorder like on my side and always got it in my bag. So that way, like, if I hear something that's just kind of like piques my interest, I'll just bust it out and start recording. And you never know what you'll end up using that for in the future.
So you really live that audio life.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, it definitely assumes quite a bit of our thinking space. And so, right, first thing, we're kind of think about when we wake up, and the last thing we think about when we go to bed is usually sound.
That's very cool. All right. Our next question here is, does bigger mean louder in terms of the awesome threat priority system when it comes to vehicles? How does object source size play into both design and threat priority?
Yeah, we actually went back and forth a lot. We iterated like crazy on this system, and we built the system in such a way that we could iterate like that really rapidly. So we actually built a lot of different types of threats that contribute to the threat system. So the way that it works is each biped in the game, each character in the game, has various different types of threats that we're tracking. So some of them are who they're targeting, where they're aiming, how far away they are, and one of those types of threats that we tried out was just the inherent scariness of that object. So things like what type of character is it? What type of weapon do they have? What type of vehicle are they in? And we tried that out, and it actually didn't quite achieve the goals that we were looking for. So what we determined was, in playtesting and iterating back and forth a lot over a long time, was that the most important factor was just who's about to deal damage to you, who's got the most capacity for damage at that exact moment, and that's what we're highlighting. So we tried it and determined that it didn't actually quite achieve the goals, and it wasn't quite prioritizing the right threats, and so we took that out and went with the system that we have today.
Very cool. Thank you for diving into a little bit of the trial and error that is game development there. I'm sure whoever asked that question will appreciate the extra insight there. This next question from Twitter is, in the last sandbox Inside Infinite, the team mentioned a new interactive damage tracking feature for vehicles. How did the audio team integrate sound design into the system to enhance the player experience?
Yeah, that's a really cool system that we're introducing in Infinite. For audio, what we do is kind of an additive approach, and we kind of piggyback off what design and effects are doing. So as you're kind of taking damage, we'll start introducing like the audio of like sparks and steam and flames and whatnot. And then when like the tires get blown out, we'll switch out the surface sounds to kind of give you a more like uneven, wobbly kind of texture. And then like before the actual vehicle is going to explode, we bring in this like doomsday alarm. And it's really efficient in like letting you know how much time you have until you need to bail out. So that's kind of the gist of the overall damage system, but it's definitely really effective in giving you the appropriate feedback you need.
That is awesome. And yeah, I love the doomsday. It's like, I need to get out of this vehicle now before it blows up.
Definitely. It's really apparent this time around.
All right. Thank you for answering that one. Our next question here is actually about multiplayer. It was mentioned that you were keeping music minimal in the multiplayer match itself. Does this mean music plays during the whole match or only in the beginning near the end?
It's a great question. To add to that, so what we mean by minimal is mostly emphasizing bigger moments and areas where we feel like you've achieved something. So for instance, the intro before the match, trying to hype things up. Also the end of match, end of round, and even moments that lead up to the end of round where you could be in a scoring situation that could potentially end a match, and we want to sort of hype that up. But typically we're trying to stay out of the way and leave a very clean and clear audio experience, especially when it comes to competitive multiplayer. So you're not going to hear constant music by any means. In fact, it's going to be far less than you might expect, but it's going to have impact where it lands.
Gotcha. So very specific, impactful moments,
Yes.
and that's it.
Very much. And this is something where we're excited to share more when we get to actually just share more multiplayer in general, because I think we've kind of taken things in a new direction stylistically that we feel really still fits in the Halo universe, and that's exciting.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that one. So our next question here is, will any of the existing sound design we've heard in the 2020 gameplay demo be adjusted, or will that be left intact?
Yeah, so that demo was cut, almost like a year ago. So we definitely, have been polishing and tightening things up. At that time, it was a work in progress. We've definitely just kind of improved and kind of fleshed out the overall mix a bit better. We've even done some more in-depth redesigns. For example, we did another pass on like the Mangler and the Ravager. And there's quite a bit of other pieces, we kind of readdressed. And yeah, I definitely think it's it's going to be a lot more refined experience when you play it in the fall. But I wouldn't expect anything like drastically different, but I would definitely expect the overall improvement.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
This next question from the community is, I really enjoy the different firefight voices in Halo 3 ODST and Reach. And I also really like the different multiplayer announcers from the Voices of War announcer pack in Halo 5. Will anything like this be available in Halo Infinite?
I was actually really involved in the Voices of War, so it's awesome that you liked that and that you brought it up. That actually came out of a hackathon that I helped lead. So this is a topic that I'm really passionate about. And while we won't have custom announcer voices like we did in the Voices of War pack, I'm very really excited and passionate about being able to customize the player experience. And so I can't say much today, but what I can say is we have some stuff that we're working on that I think the fans will be excited about and that you'll really enjoy.
Cool. So hint at it, but no confirmations of anything yet. I appreciate that. So thank you for that one, Chase. Our next question here is about music and content creation. Will all the music in the game be DMCA free, so it's able to be played on stream, or will we need to mute the music in order to be safe?
While I personally can't make any promises here, it is our intention for streamers and content creators to be able to use the music of Halo Infinite in their content.
That's awesome to hear. I'm very excited for players to get to experience it fully while they're making that content.
Same.
All right, here's our next question. I really, really love the fact that wildlife in this game already sound like really cool side ambience. I'm interested to know how you went about making the sounds for the wild.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are kind of picking that out and enjoying it. The first thing we usually do is we try to pinpoint what exactly are the state behaviors for them, so that we cover things like threatened or attack or idle or death. And then we'll just start acquiring all the different source material we need. Since there's quite a bit of diverse wildlife, we need a bunch of different stuff from different areas of like the animal kingdom, and so we're always kind of recording different animal sounds and different nature sounds. But we'll also record people's personal pets. We ended up utilizing some of the pug recordings that we did, and those kind of got used for the digger creatures. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of material that we're just kind of pulling from just like the whole animal kingdom. We've also, we had some really great content partners that are also able to provide some really exotic content from, really unique places from the globe and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think you guys will kind of really enjoy this kind of little extra, ambient side detail that you'll kind of get in the game.
Nice. So pulling sounds from all sorts of animals all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. To make the wildlife.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for diving into that one too. Our next question is actually a pretty popular one in the community, so let's dive into it. The Forerunner interiors sound epic. I can't wait to explore the insides of Zeta Halo. But is Jeff Steitzer making a return to the multiplayer announcer? His voice is the true sounds of Halo.
I couldn't agree more. There's nothing better than hearing a classic double kill from the announcer. And I can confirm that, yes, Jeff Steitzer will be back, and we are super excited to see how fans enjoy the new VO for the multiplayer experience.
Thank you for confirming that. I love hearing Jeff's voice in any Halo game, and especially in Infinite. Our next question here from the community is, when can we expect to hear another song from the Halo Infinite soundtrack?
Just like you, we have been very excited and would love to share more. but we're also aware of the story arc and a lot of other details that are part of the game itself. And so we really would love for you to hear the rest of the music in context. That said, we have our previous 3 tracks from last summer. They're now on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and several other streaming websites for you to check out.
Gotcha. So nothing yet. We want you to experience it in game, get that full experience, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, obviously we're avoiding spoilers. There's a lot of the music is in context of some frankly really, really awesome storyline that I think a lot of people won't be expecting.
Gotcha. So save those powerful pieces for the powerful moments in campaign.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Even trying to come up with a name for tracks becomes an effort not to spoil something.
It's very true. I've seen a few soundtracks that have rise of this person, fall of this person, and you're like, dude, why would you put that in the title of the soundtrack?
And who even was that person?
Mm-hmm.
You never talked about that person before. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. We got to have some surprise.
Cool. Well, thank you for diving into that one there. All right. Our next question here is about the battle rifle. Is there a certain BR the Halo Infinite version is based off of? And what weapon was used to record the new BR?
I'd say the inspiration behind the BR was the Halo 2 BR. I kind of used that as reference when designing the sound. The actual content was probably derived from multiple gun recordings that we did in the past. Probably the main one was the FN SCAR battle rifle and also the FN M240B machine gun. I was able to kind of take different microphone recordings, textures from there, and kind of combine them. And then the actual kind of punch and bass, that was from a recording I think we just did here in the Foley studio. We have this device that will pressurize air into a 2-liter bottle essentially. And then if you puncture it with a projectile of a certain velocity, it'll create a sonic boom, very low energy because the bottle rips at supersonic speed. And so you kind of just get this really, tight, very dynamic impulse that comes out of it. And so if you kind of put that around different resonant spaces, you just get some really nice punchy impacts that you can incorporate into your designs. And then for the actual tails and stuff like that, those are usually constructed from many different recordings that we do. We'll record in different fields and just different locations to kind of just get really interesting reflections, and then we just kind of combine those all to just make something really convincing and satisfying.
That is awesome to hear that it's the Halo 2 BR kind of served as your inspiration.
Yeah,
I had no idea that you had so much depth go into just that BR sound, right? You mentioned at least 2 different weapons and another thing you recorded in the Foley studio. So a lot of work just going into one weapon sound.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I know how much people love the battle rifle, and so, it's not more important to me to just try to do that justice for everyone.
Well, I'm sure people appreciate it. We saw nothing but praise for it online after we put it in the latest Inside Infinite blog. So
awesome. Yeah.
It's good to see people love it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Thank you so much for all of your answers today, gentlemen. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to answer these community questions that we got from Twitter. Before we go, do you have any closing words that you'd like to tell our community before they go hands-on this fall?
Yeah, thanks, John. It's such an honor to be able to answer these questions. And part of what makes my job so great is knowing that there's an awesome community out there who's just as passionate as I am about the audio in this game. And so I can't wait to play the game later this year with everybody and hear what people think about the audio.
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you guys. It's always a pleasure. And, I'm just really excited for you guys to get your hands on this in the fall and experience all the hard work that we've been putting into this over the years, and I just really want to thank my team. I mean, this has been such a huge collaborative process. I'd probably say, we have people from all areas of the globe working on this, and it's just been such a pleasure to work with such a passionate group of people that literally all we want to do is just make the best Halo experience possible for you guys.
Yeah, just thank you so much. We're here doing this for you, and honestly, I've been waiting for you to get this game in your hands and play it. We're gonna have a pretty big soundtrack release along with the game, and I just want it to be out there as much as you, and I'm just looking forward to that day.
So that wraps up today's Ask343 with the audio team here at the studio. Thank you so much for watching and submitting your questions on Twitter using hashtag Ask343. If you want to see the latest and greatest Halo news, be sure to follow us at Halo on Twitter, as well as check out HaloWaypoint.com. Until next time, we'll see y'all later. You guys went supersonic in the Foley room?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, it's supersonic, but it's such a low energy. I mean, you could literally set it off right next to you and you would feel nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Would it break?